Hello, friends. Welcome to our new service, Simplify Live, a live Q&A meeting with Captain Alon Pereg to answer your questions. We received many questions and we're happy to see your involvement and engagement. Your comments, praise, or criticism is greatly appreciated. We will try to answer all your questions and we may extend our meeting to about 45 minutes if needed. At the end of the session, we will also give you a coupon code for a free 7-day trial to our Simplify app. Please be ready to copy down the code and to use in the coming week. Today, we will be discussing flying in challenging weather conditions, as well as panic attacks before and during flight. As it seems that this is a very prominent topic these days, as most of your questions that we received were related to these topics. If you would like to ask a question during the broadcast, we ask that you please write them down in the comment section of this broadcast. And yes, so if you're ready, let's get started. Hello to Captain Alon Pereg. How are you?
Hello, good evening, Melody. Fine, thank you.
And good morning to our friends over in the Americas. So our first question comes from Elizabeth. And Elizabeth would like to know, how does one stop obsessing over the prospect of boarding a flight or before boarding a flight in the time between planning the trip and actually going?
Well, Elizabeth, that's a very big question, and it takes more time than we have right now to take all the aspects of it. But I have to... I would like to give you a little overview of what's happening in our minds when we face something that we feel that is scary or dangerous. And just to make sure that we know that fear by itself is not a bad thing. The fear is a very healthy and important mechanism that we have. So once we observe or we feel something that is perceived by us as threatening, there is a mechanism in our brains that alerts the entire system. Up to now, it's very common, it's very normal. Now we have the choice to go with this fear or to bring the knowledge into it. And the same thing goes to obsessive thoughts that actually are not triggered by anything from outside, just thinking and trying to bring this into, or to find some realization. Or in other words, we have a tendency to justify what we feel, what we think. So if we feel that flying is dangerous, then our mind will try to verify it by obsessively thinking about horrible things. It goes back, everything goes back to our minds and our thinking. And if we can replace these bad thoughts with information, with reliable information, which in the case of flying is the truth in a way, practically, then that's the way to stop obsessing. So in short, the answer to your question is think about the facts. Anytime that you are thrown into obsessive thinking about bad things, try to dig from your knowledge reassuring facts and replace these thoughts.
Thank you, Alon. I see that my next question is from Saskia, which actually just joined our broadcast, and perhaps Saskia would like to ask her question on her own. If you would like, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask the question. If not, then I'll go ahead and read it.
Yeah, sure. I just joined in, so I missed the first part, I think, but I have posed a question indeed. Well, I have a fear of flying, but I used to fly a lot actually. My question was, what would happen if I have a panic attack in a plane?
Okay, Saskia, good evening. Where are you joining us from?
I am joining from Rotterdam, the Netherlands.
Oh, okay. Good evening. So,
Good evening.
in my 19 years of flying in an airline, before that I was flying in a single-seater plane, jet fighter, so I didn't have passengers. But in the last 19 years, I'm seeing people with panic attacks quite often. And there is a general disclaimer that I want to say at this time. I'm not a therapist and not a doctor or physician. So whatever I'm going to say right now is based on my observation of many, many people. Panic attack is very difficult. It's very hard to be in such a situation, and it brings up all the anxiety symptoms like feeling how to breathe and heartbeats, etc. I don't have to tell you, Saskia, about it. You know it. However, as much as I know, it is not dangerous. It doesn't cause you heart attack. It will not make you faint. It will make you feel that you are going to faint or whatever, but it is not. And in most of the times, it will pass by itself. You don't have to raise your feet and to breathe that way or another. It passes by itself. So most of the time, the cabin crew knows about these situations, and they try to ease your feeling, but there is practically nothing that you can do. By the way, the symptoms are quite similar to those of heart attack in some times, and they might be afraid that that's the problem and may trigger emergency landing, etc. But in most times, as I said, the panic attack will pass by itself. Now, what can you do during a panic attack? And that is an advice that we got from a professor of psychology that is a consultant to Simplify. Unfortunately, the podcast that I recorded with him is in Hebrew, and so I cannot just let you listen to it, but let me give you the highlights. He says that by trying to escape from that feeling, that horrible feeling of panic attack, we actually encourage its arrival. And the way to confront the panic attack is, first of all, to try to bring it, like you are trying to chase your shadow and it's escaping from you. And then once it happens, do not try to avoid it or to defeat it. It's like in a swirl in the ocean. Go with it. Try to look at it. Try to be a little bit neutral. I know it's very easy to say and less easy to exercise, but that's what Professor Alon Chayut, our psychology professor that is advising us, says. So I hope I answered your question, Saskia.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to Julie's question. Julie wants to know, how do flight attendants and or pilots deal with a passenger having an anxiety or panic attack? It's very much related to our previous question, more in terms of not being able to escape and claustrophobia.
Yeah, okay. So one aspect of the question is how we deal with this. So I touched it before. The problem is that panic attack by itself is not dangerous, but the symptoms sometimes are difficult to distinguish between panic attack and heart attack or something like that. And naturally, we tend to take the worst case and to try to address a worst case scenario. However, We know that panic attacks will probably end quite soon, and we let the people relax. Now, I understand that your panic or the scenario that you are afraid of is of not being able to escape or not being able to exit the plane while it's the doors are closed. And by the way, there is no way you can open the doors even if you try. They are very firmly locked and tight to their place because of the air pressure. So there is no way that somebody will manage to open the doors, and you cannot do that. Now, how do we manage it? We try to ease the fear, and if we understand that it is only a panic attack, in most of the time, we'll just continue the flight and it will pass on. If we are not sure about what it is, we will take, as I said, the worst case, and we will refer to it. And sometimes we may land en route to help to give some help to the passenger.
So Marianne actually asked also a question that's very much related, and if you have anything else to add, I'll read her question in any event. She wanted to know what happens if a person has a panic attack when you're in the air and wants to get off the plane. How do you or the attendant help? So it's very much related, but if you have anything to add in terms of how do you deal with a person like that?
Actually, I'll tell you a story. Once on a flight to Nice in France, we couldn't land there because of high winds and special conditions there, and we diverted to Marseille in France, which is a couple of hundreds of kilometers from there, and we landed there to wait until the weather clears, and quite shortly after that, we were ready to depart. But we had one passenger that was really under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. She felt that these symptoms that people with panic attacks often talk about, which are very hard breathing and not feeling that they have enough air, and she wanted out. And it would be very difficult for us to do that because we were parking outside of the terminal. And for her, it would be a big hassle to get to her destination because she was not cleared to enter the country via Marseille. So it was a very big situation, problem. Now, there is a phase in that panic attack in which the person is locked, is not capable of absorbing any information. But this phase is limited in time, and after which you can go and explain to them and talk to the logic and try to calm them down. And that's what I did. I went out to the cabin and we were on the ground. I had time and I talked to her and I explained to her, and I gave her information that was very useful for her to use during that short flight back to Nice, France, and she was there. But unfortunately, I'm not sure if the cabin attendants get this training. We are trying to team with airlines and to teach their aircrew how to deal with such events.
Thank you, Alon. So we're moving on to the topic of weather conditions, and Max would like to know if there are any recommended apps for receiving the forecast of air pockets before flights.
Well, in that case, the short answer is no, but I have a longer answer. And it comes to actually us in Simplify. We wanted to develop our own way to let you, the users, evaluate the conditions and in and the turbulence actually during the flight. And Elad, our CTO, and I worked very hard to understand how we can do that. But the problem is that there are too many factors in it that will make this guess very difficult. So I have a little presentation to show you to make you understand what's the problem here. So what is the problem here? Let's assume that we are planning a flight from Rome, Italy to New York. Well, this is the way from Rome to New York. Actually, this is not the shortest way from Tel Aviv, from New York, from between Rome and New York. And the shortest way, most of the time, looks a little bit different. It's like this. And I will explain on it in another session. Now, let's assume that we have an information that this area in the middle of the ocean is most probably going to have turbulence of any kind between these two altitudes, 36,000 feet and 40,000 feet. Now, first of all, this information is very inaccurate. It's very difficult for the meteorological systems to predict, but as we get nearer to the flight, it may be more accurate. Now let's move on. Is it that can we say that the flight between Rome and New York will pass through this turbulence area? Well, I'm not sure because I don't know what is going to be the exact route between Rome and New York for that specific flight. Let's assume it will be the green route, which is in a way maybe a little bit shorter than the blue route. And again, it's a different issue of how we present the shortest route. But so the green route will not encounter these turbulence. But let's assume that the wind conditions at that specific day are such that it is not good to fly on these blue or green route, and our planner chose the red route, which eventually will be shorter because of the wind. But then, as time changes, the area may move, the area of turbulence. So I don't know at exactly what time you are going to meet this virtual cloud of weather. And the situation is even more complex because the actual maps look like this. We have many areas of maybe turbulence, and it changes with time, with altitude, and of course, it's in different regions, and we don't know when you board the plane which route will be your route. So eventually, since we have so many variables, which is the route and the altitude and the time that you will be at a certain position, we cannot define if you will meet this turbulence unless it's a very short flight. And on top of this, as I mentioned earlier, the forecast is very inaccurate, and we can give you some information, but it will not be something that you can use. So we are not developing this feature. And I can tell you that I've tried a couple of other apps to see if they can predict it. And I just used it on flight, and it was not accurate. So unfortunately, I cannot recommend any other application to forecast the turbulence.
So we're moving on with Paul's question. And Paul would like to know, are there times due to turbulence when the pilot is having a hard time controlling the plane and there is some danger as to whether the plane will get back under control?
Again, we'll start with a short answer. No. Large planes, and when I'm saying large planes, I mean all the planes that are used by airlines that have, tens of seats or hundreds of seats. Pilots of planes will not lose control in any type of turbulence or any severity of turbulence. Now, there are many or several levels of severity of turbulence. The minimal that we can see in our charts is what we call light turbulence, which is most of the time something that will not affect anything. We will switch on the seatbelt sign, but it's not a problem. Then we have moderate turbulence, which may even cause us to ask the flight attendants to sit. And later on, we have severe and extreme turbulence. In severe and extreme turbulence, we might have a difficulty to maintain the exact altitude of the plane because the waves, sort of speaking, are too high, or the plane will do some kind of fluctuations around the desired altitude. And we will not fight the plane, we will let it go with these virtual waves. But it's not about losing control of the plane. The plane will not flip over, will not fall. People are sometimes thinking or feeling that the plane fell from the sky hundreds of feet or thousands of feet. No, it doesn't happen. The plane will maintain its altitude, and your feeling about it is a little bit deceived. If you want more information about what's happening in your mind, then look for the clip of turbulence in the Simplify app. And by the way, as Melody said, we're going to give you a free access to the app so you can check it later on. And look for the explanation of how our minds are deceiving us during turbulence.
Great, thank you so much. So someone anonymous would like to know, what are some things that happen when planes are in the air that we wouldn't be aware of?
Well, it's an anonymous question and a bit fuzzy.
Very vague.
Vague, yeah. So I'll try to address what I understand from this question. There are many things that happen behind the scenes of this mass production of flying from one point to another. Many things are happening. We are constantly dealing with maintaining the flight path, and most of the time is devoted to one, monitoring the situation and making sure that everything is okay. And second thing is getting ready to the unknown or unforeseen. For example, when we fly, we constantly monitor the fuel situation. So we take notes on each position, what should be the fuel that we have on board and what actually is our fuel on board, so we can understand if there is a leak, for example. We are constantly checking the weather along the route in any airport that is relevant to us. So if we need to land immediately, most of the time because of, let's say, medical situation, we can do it without starting to investigate what's happening in the way. Now, if there is an abnormal situation developing, for example, a malfunction that will require us to change our plan and to, let's say, land in an airport en route, then we are starting to work on it. But very, very soon, you, the passengers, will know about it, because we will need your cooperation in sitting down and getting ready to land. So if there is a bad situation going on, then you will, most of the time, see that the routine of the flight attendants will change. They will stop the normal service. They will start preparing for landing. By the way, if they are sitting buckled up due to turbulence, there is no abnormal situation, because in an abnormal situation, they have to work and prepare the cabin for landing. So you will, first of all, say that the service has stopped and the flight attendants are preparing the plane. And quite soon after that, somebody will go on the speakers and tell you what's happening, because we want you to know and we need your cooperation. So in short, your situational awareness is most of the time should rely on, if there are no news, that's good news. And once there is something not normal, you will be notified.
Thank you very much. Laura would like to know, can a plane just fall from the sky?
No, no way. The plane can't just fall from the sky. Planes are not designed, and it never happens that the plane just falls from the sky. There should be a process involving multiple malfunctions and mistreatment of the situation to create such a thing, or a deliberate action. But planes just not fall from the sky, Laura.
Okay. You mean, for example, hijacking or something of that sort?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I will not go and develop the
Of course.
situation, but in general, the plane will not break or fall from the sky. The abnormal situations develop, and in most of the time, and we are talking now, let's say in the Western world, it's not happening. That's it.
Thank you. Irina, if she's here live, you're welcome to ask your question. We received
No, I don't see
notification. I don't think she's here.
No.
So unless anybody wants to ask a question in the comments, we have time for one last question. So now is the moment to ask. If not, then we will move forward to the coupon code.
Yeah. And
All right.
and as I promised to you, actually Melody promised, and we will keep her promise. We are going to give you a coupon code. So to use the coupon code and to get a free 10 days premium coupon, first of all, you have to download Simplify application and register to it. Second thing that you want to do is press these 3 horizontal lines to get to the preferences, and press the insert coupon line, which will open this screen in which you can type this code, live-2D3837, and press the continue. Again, the code is live-2D3837 with a dash between the live and the other part, and you will get a free access to all the premium features of Simplify, and you are very welcome to share this with your friends who may need it. It's a free use without any hidden costs, and when it expires, it will just expire, and you don't have to commit to anything after that.
Excellent. So that's it for today. We'll continue next week. If we didn't get to your questions, we'll address them in our next session, or we'll try to send you an email answer privately. You're welcome to send us more questions for us to answer for our next live. which will take place on Tuesday, February 21st, same time. Thank you very much to Alon for answering our questions. Thank you for our viewers for your questions. And at Simplify, we continue to help you conquer your fear of flying. We would appreciate it if you'd share this video so we could reach more fearful flyers and help them as well. And until next time, may we have a warm and peaceful week. Thank you very much.